platform as well.
So I assume there must be some type of a fee arrangement that you have with AeroVironment and Clipper Creek and those so they can have access then to this information. Is that sort of your business model going forward?
Yeah, you can think of our business as, on the one hand, yes, we sell, the juice box, and we continue to have a very successful product there. But we also have the cloud platform that I alluded to, JuiceNet. And there's a software licensing component to that with regards to how that is used, not only by our partner companies, the EV and the EVSE OEMs, but also by the utilities. So there's a software. And ultimately, we look forward, many years down the line, and that software component of what we do, we're based here in San Carlos, in Silicon Valley. We have developers in 3 different, major locations around the world. That expertise that we have as a technology company is where we see our long-term value in the market. And the third piece of what we do from a revenue model, to your question, is for these different manufacturers with whom we work, we can do any number of things. We can work on a pure cloud-to-cloud basis. So if there is a charging station and or a car, and we're working in all these scenarios where the car and the charging station is already connected to the cloud via whatever communications method, cellular, Wi-Fi, etc., we can connect that way to JuiceNet, and we can provide that standards-based platform with the intelligence that we have built in to do this smart grid charging. We also can provide hardware plugins, and this is what we do with Clipper Creek and AeroVironment. There's a thing we call Juice Card. Everything here is juice related.
Of course.
This is Juice Tower here, which is
right.
a commercial station, dual-headed station that we have. It's actually also through an OEM partner. This is kind of a white label product. Here's the AV product. I don't know if you can see this.
Right. Yeah, we can see the top of it.
The AV product, right here that we just announced, that is JuiceNet enabled. And here's the trusty JuiceBox Pro 40, which of course is JuiceNet enabled. So our goal is to grow the market again. And so we have multiple revenue models, be it software licensing, hardware plugins, and then just pure hardware sales that we sell as well.
Very cool. Okay, so what impact is this going to have on, coming back to that Nissan Leaf example, what impact does this ultimately have then on the consumer? They basically, it's going to be, it sounds to me like it's pretty transparent, other than if they sign up for the program, at some point they're going to build points to get premiums or a cheaper rate of electricity or something, right?
Yes. So I was going to pull up give it a second here. I'll pull up the mobile app.
Okay.
I'm downloading the latest version. I'm on the beta system. You might not be surprised to learn, for eMotorWerks software.
Right.
So the immediate benefit is people get a smartphone control over a station, which previously didn't have that. So the AeroVironment or Clipper Creek stations now would have the ability to control charging. Any smart charging that we would do, you can override, you can set time of use, you can set alerts if the car is unexpectedly unplugged or the charging station is unplugged. So there's a number of sort of things you can do. You can run reports, etc. And this is good for individuals, but it's also good for people who have stations at the workplace or multifamily type environment. They need to manage that charging. So that's the immediate thing that customers see by JuiceNet enabling their stations. The economic side is also exactly what you described, where the time of use can be set, and as these rewards programs go further in place, we've worked with a couple of utilities, for instance, in the Bay Area here. Actually, we just announced the second phase of the sub-metering pilot, in which the AeroVironment product comes in. And there's some payments that come in. There's a lower EV rate that's available by working with our station in that program. And those are sort of additional benefits that will help above and beyond the immediate sort of app-based or IoT, Internet of Things kind of approach that we bring to the table.
So cost, what would this cost me to, let's say I want to put in, you know, buy one of your JuiceNet boxes, smart, what's that going to run me to get all that done? Obviously there's installation costs for, you know,
Right.
electricians and all that kind of stuff, but.
Yeah, and that cost varies, right? It depends on, you know, I pulled up the station, most of our stations ship with this NEMA 1450 outlet. So it's a fairly standard installation in terms of having an electrician come in and you know, put in that outlet. Some of the stations are going to be hardwired, particularly if you go into the 75, you know, amp type model. It's going to be required to be hardwired, like our Pro 75. And that's going to vary just depending on how far your panel is from your location where you need the charging station installed.
Right.
The actual stations range anywhere from you know, $499 or $459 on the low end for our traditional classic unit, and there's a marginal increase. You know, this station here is the JuiceBox Pro. I don't know if you can see it again, but you know, this is basically a $599 price point.
Okay.
Then the AeroVironment, we're kind of running a special right now on this.
Okay.
It's a little bit more expensive, but it's you know, priced for a limited time at $749.
Okay.
And if people come into the sub-metering pilot, they actually can get another $300 off. So they can get it basically at $400 off.
So what's a sub-metering?
Yeah, so the sub-metering pilot is a program that's run. We've participated with all of the California IOUs since 2015, actually, to have our stations be under control and to provide data. It's actually data about the charging. In this case, I don't think there's any actual control going on, but we're providing data about charging. And if customers want to participate in that program, we provide this, you know, at a very nice discount level in order to support that program, because we think these programs, as I spoke about earlier, as the grid demand increases for EV charging, the utilities need to understand the patterns of charging. They need to figure out how they're going to accommodate that. So there are programs like this where, in this instance, it's worth about $400 directly. And then there's also a lower tariff that the EV drivers go on to save money for the 12-month period that they would be enrolled.
All right, so is this pretty much the utilities there in the California area, the PG&Es and the Southern California Edisons and LAWPs, or do you have utilities elsewhere?
That's correct, yeah. So today, not surprisingly, California has done some leading-edge work around this around this domain. There are, however, other geographies, including even Texas, believe it or not, has got a lot of wind power and you know, work that needs to be done in terms of balancing. So they do work in this domain. The entire East Coast, under the so-called PJM area, does quite a bit of work around, you know, demand response, but also frequency regulation. There are a number of very arcane, for most people, utility-related energy services where this is happening across the country. And those utilities look at the future that I described, 15, 20 million cars in North America, otherwise hundreds of new coal or gas plants that need to get built, transmission lines and transformers that have to get upgraded. And they look at that and say, that's not really where we need to go. We need to go towards managed charging as we add, you know, probably another 15 or 20 million charging stations in that same period. And we need to have that be under control. So they come to us and they want to work with us. And because we have this long history and legacy in this domain, we're a credible and capable partner to do all the way from the charging station all the way up into the cloud and to the grid. So having that full connected stack, if you will, of technology puts us in a pretty unique position.
Let's talk about the a little politics for the moment, because obviously what's happened yesterday with the signing of the executive order to essentially begin the process of dismantling the clean power regulations, what I'm starting to refer to as the Trump speed bump. I mean, we've had these before, as you'll recall, if you've been around long enough, you know, when California basically put the zero emission mandate on, you know, life support back around 2004. Fortunately, it's been revived, but, you know, we've seen challenges to that. And of course, ARB took and reconfirmed their commitment last week, you know, so there's a lot of turmoil and froth going on within our industry, and that coming, you know, from the inside the beltway there. So I'm wondering sort of what's your perspective on where you see all of this headed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to show you two things. One, I mentioned the app. So
there it is. Okay.
Immediate results are you get control over your charging. You can kind of view status of the, you know, where it's charging. You can control it and override any smart charging that might be going on, etc. So the reason I say this, and the reason I hold up this phone, actually 10 years ago, this thing didn't even exist. This is an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary for this. It replaced the personal digital assistant, PDA.
Yep.
You remember that, Bill?
Oh my God, yes, I've got one buried somewhere. I don't.
Exactly. You probably have an MP3 player somewhere buried.
Oh yeah, I've got that too. Yep.
So this came along and took over the market. Android, of course, followed shortly after, a year later. It's a better product,
There's
right?
In my pocket.
Exactly. It's a better product. The same is true for EVs. The only guy that wants me to have a transmission, to have a cooling system, a carburation system, a fuel injection, the only guy that wants me to have that is my local mechanic.
Yes.
Because he's looking forward to me coming every year for $3,000 or $5,000 of maintenance on my car. That's the only person in the world who wants me to have that internal combustion engine technology at this point. Once we get through this sort of phase that's happening right now, increasing range a little bit and getting to the point where the cost point for EVs is more competitive. And that's what this, you know, Bloomberg New Energy Finance report shows. That's actually coming within the next 5 years. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So we get to the same cost point and we have a better product. The numbers are going to skyrocket. So I will get to your question, which is around the politics of this. Even with the politics, and you said the word froth, very good description. Yeah. There is a lot of froth, and I do absolutely have concerns just on a personal level for my children. I have a great concern for the next, you know, 20, 50, 100 years of what we're happening to the planet. Yep. And I'm hopeful that what's going on in Washington with the craziness there will not completely derail what's going on here. I do not believe it will derail things. I believe it will be a speed bump, as you described, and that we will get back on the rail, you know, appropriately in the not distant future, because this EV is here for real. The big companies are there. It's happening. All the, you know, the BMWs and the Daimlers and the Nissan. I mean, Ford, GM. All these companies see the writing on the wall. It's happening. It's a better product. And this little speed bump is going to be just that. It's going to slow us down a little bit, but it's not going to stop what must happen and what will happen, simply because EVs are truly a better product. Yeah,
great. Hey, you've been a wonderful person to talk to and interview on this. I very much appreciate it. Let's stay in touch, and when you got those new announcements, let me know about it.
We will do that, absolutely. And they're exciting. Actually, the next one will be just within about 3 weeks. And then the next one after that, probably about a month after that. And they are equally, if not bigger, even the AeroVironment announcement we just said.
Very cool.
Seen. So thanks very much. It's a pleasure to speak, and we'd be happy to follow up at any time.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Good. Bye-bye.
Okay.